Welcome back to the center of it all. It's that time of year when the kids are going back to school, and Mel has the perfect recipe for Meatloaf Monday.
What do Taco Tuesday, Wing It Wednesday, Spaghetti Thursday, and Pizza Friday have in common? You've got kids, they just went back to school, you needed a weeknight meal plan, and I shared recipes for all of them with you, except one, Meatloaf Monday. Join me while I make my twist on a not-so-ho-hum meatloaf dinner. Mexican-style beef and chorizo sausage meatloaf with Mexican-style adobo rice. I'm going to start by sauteing a few vegetables for our meatloaf, and I'm melting 3 tablespoons of salted butter in a non-stick skillet. I'm going to add 1 cup each of red and green bell pepper, 1 cup of green onions or scallion, and 2 cups of corn kernels. I'm going to season these with 2 teaspoons of sea salt, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, a tablespoon of chili powder, and a tablespoon of ground cumin. I'll stir all these around, get them coated in the spices, butter, and I'm going to let these saute for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'm not going to overcook them. I just want them nice and crunch tender. It's been a full 3 minutes and my vegetables are perfect. I'm going to turn my heat down really low and I'm going to stir in a cup of minced cilantro. And we want to stir the cilantro throughout the vegetables and let it steam for about a minute. We don't really want to cook the cilantro. I'm just going to turn the heat off on this. I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to take it back to the counter and I'm going to set it aside for about 20-25 minutes so it can cool a little bit. And as soon as I get back, we're going to start simmering our Mexican adobo rice. Mexican-style adobo rice is a meatless Mexican side dish. I'm going to start by heating my pan over medium heat and I'm going to add some annatto oil, about 2 tablespoons. And all that is vegetable oil that's been colored with annatto seeds, and it's going to give the rice that signature yellow-orange color that's common to Mexican cooking. I'm going to season my oil with adobo spice mix, which is common to Mexican cooking. It's loaded with garlic and Mexican oregano, jalapeno pepper powder to give it some heat, some cumin, and some sea salt. So you start by seasoning your oil. Now I'm going to add a cup of diced sweet onion, and I'm going to let that saute in the seasoned oil for a minute or 2, maybe 3. I don't want to brown the onion. I just want to make it nice and soft and tender. Now I'm going to add my rice, and I've got 2 cups of extra long grain. You can use long grain, but no short grain or medium grain rice for this dish. And we're going to add 2 full cups of rice. We're going to toss that around. We want every last grain to be coated in oil. We're going to lower this heat a little bit. And we're going to continue to cook this for about 2 more minutes till the rice kind of takes on. We're not browning it, but we want a nice little bit of a nutty fragrance. That's looking great, smelling even better. And now I'm going to add 2 cups of diced tomatoes. These are regular canned tomatoes. I'm using fire roasted diced tomatoes. They're undrained. You want them with all their liquid. And adobo rice commonly contains tomatoes and corn. The corn, however, the corn kernels, which I have set aside, when the rice is fully cooked and we rake through it with the fork, you add the corn at the last minute. Tomatoes are heated through, and now it's time for 3 cups of vegetable stock. It's a vegetarian dish. This is a meatless rice dish. Turn the heat up to high. Give this a stir. Take out your spoon. Let that come to a boil. The rice is approaching a full boil. I'm going to put a lid on it, and I really like to use a saucepan with a glass top lid so that I can keep an eye on the process. I'm going to turn my heat down to a medium low, and I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to let this simmer for about 22 to 24 minutes. We're going to move over to the counter and we're going to mix up our meatloaf. Every meatloaf starts with a binder, which is a bread product, and I use saltine cracker crumbs, just coarse crumbs, instead of fresh bread crumbs, just because I like the flavor and the texture. I've crushed 4 ounces or 1 sleeve of some saltines, and I'm going to add a cup of milk. Stir that around. And then I'll just set this off to the side here so that the crackers can absorb the milk, and the crackers are going to soften, and it's going to get to be a nice pasty mixture. And for our meat, we're going to start with 2 pounds of lean ground beef. This is 85-15. You can use 90-10, but you don't want to go with too much more fat than that. And I've got 1 pound of Mexican chorizo sausage, and there is a difference. The recipe calls for Mexican chorizo. You want to use the soft sausage, because if the recipe calls for Spanish chorizo, they're implying a dry version of a sausage, similar to like a salami or a pepperoni. Next, before I get my hands all dirty, I'm going to lightly whisk 2 eggs. I'm using extra large eggs. Just break the yolks. And there's only one way to do this, and that's with your hands, and it's messy, so take off any jewelry you're wearing. You really don't need to be cleaning that out of your rings. And just start mixing the chorizo into the ground beef. Okay, that's mixed in. Now, add all of our pasty bread mixture. And see how fast that happened? It absorbed all the milk. Mix these in. And now, last but not least, still warm, but are cooled enough to touch, vegetable mixture. Great way to get vegetables into your kids' dinner with 0 complaints. All right, that's all mixed. I'm going to take a minute to wash my hands, and when we come back, we'll get these into the pans and into the oven. It's an optional step, but it works great. If you've got a kitchen scale, now is the time to use it. It's really easy dividing this mixture in half to be off by 5, 6, or 7 ounces. And what I have today are 2 identical sized meatloaves that are 3 pounds each. I've got 2 standard size loaf pans that have been sprayed with no stick spray. And I'm just going to begin. Don't dump it all in at once, because a trick to a really great meatloaf is to put it in and pat it down as you go. It's going to cook evenly and it's going to bake up beautifully. If you just plop it in there, you're never going to get a really pretty meatloaf. Mound it a little towards the center. That looks great. I'm going to put the second one in the pan, and then I'm popping them into a 350-degree oven, uncovered, for exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes. And when they come out, we're going to eat. Making time to cook dinner on a school night is a labor of love, but it has its rewards. It slows down the whole crazy world. Conversations can happen, and jokes can be told too. Cooking with your kids or for your entire family is just plain fun. Have a great school year, everyone. For these and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
Your family will be looking forward to Mondays if you're making this meatloaf. And I, for one, am excited to try this rice. But when we come back, we'll be taking a look at a new stadium at one of the local high schools.